Did you know that niceness is actually a red flag? In this video, I'm going to be talking about one of the ways that you can quickly distinguish a spiritual environment that is safe from a spiritually environment that is not so safe. My name is Dr. Felicia, and I'm a licensed psychologist. And on my channel, I talk a lot about spiritual abuse, how to identify it, defend yourself from it, and recover from it as well. And so, back to my original question, did you know that niceness can actually be a red flag? Now, that might sound kind of strange to you. If you're on this channel, you probably have experienced spiritual abuse as well as other types of abuse. And so you might be wondering, well, goodness, we all like nice people. So why would niceness be a red flag? Now, one thing I say on this channel is that you have to understand and appreciate nuance in order to get where I'm coming from and get the most from this channel. I'm not saying that niceness in and of itself is bad, but in certain spiritual environments, especially the ones that are abusive, they tend to really place a huge unnecessary emphasis on niceness. And when that happens, niceness occurs, but at the expense of many other important things. So, if you have children or think back to a time in your childhood, I want you to think of maybe a particular teacher or instructor or leader that you had that was nice, but kind of dismissive and allowed nonsense and hurt to go on under their leadership. Can you think of somebody? I can think of somebody. So think back to that kind of experience that you had with somebody that was, a nice leader, but also a lot went on under their watch. In some way or another, I bet you that they placed a high premium on niceness. So they might have said things like, oh, well, we should be nice to one another. Be nice, be nice. You might have brought up a complaint about somebody or pointed out some sort of harm or just inappropriate behavior that was going on. And instead of it being directly addressed, you were chastised for your not being nice because you brought it up. And so when we hear an emphasis on niceness, it goes along with tone policing. I'll actually get back to that a little bit later. I'll touch on the tone policing a little bit later. I'm going to talk first of all about the dismissiveness. And so when you hear that, oh, we have to be nice, that is dismissing and it's not getting to the root of the problem. So you can imagine, being in some sort of situation, something is going on, and instead of that thing being taken care of, you are now the bad guy because you've brought it up and you're told, well, that's not nice. That's not nice. That's not nice. Right. And so that is a red flag. If you are in a spiritual community where they always emphasize niceness, the flip side of that is that they don't honor and value other things like truth, accountability, and justice. Niceness is just a veneer, right? And niceness can also be a way of emphasizing politeness and appearance. I talk about how one of the major values of a spiritually abusive environment is appearance over authenticity. So things must look good at all times, even if it's fake. They might even value authenticity a little bit, but appearance is much more important. And so when you hear people chastise other people about not being nice, look at where that comes from. Sometimes when people make such a big deal about not being nice, they're tone policing, right? And they're basically saying they're going to focus on maybe not what you said, but how you said it. And so that is a detraction from what is actually being said, right? And so, let's say, think back to, your childhood days, and maybe you come in, you're really upset, some kid threw something at you and you have a bruise and you're crying and you're saying, oh my goodness, Tommy, threw this shoe at me and now my neck is bleeding. And the teacher is like, now, that's not nice. We don't say mean things about our classmates. Well, you're telling the truth because someone hurt you, and yet you're being chastised for not saying something nice or not being nice in how you said it. Maybe you're crying and you're yelling and upset. And that often happens in spiritually abusive environments. When we look at media about it, and you all have told your own stories, when you are bringing up something that's painful, or bringing up something that you're not happy about, you're accused of not being nice. And so what they're telling you in that moment is, you know what, we really don't want to hear what you have to say. Maybe they don't have the capacity to deal with it. Maybe they are concerned about how their own, that's what I'm looking for, their own appearance is going to be. And so, so that, in a sense, it is, like I said before, it's akin to tone policing. So it's now a matter of, hey, not only did we not like what you said, we didn't like how you said it. Another thing with valuing niceness is that it comes at a big price. If you value niceness over everything, it means that you cannot be authentic. Now, I'm not by any means saying that people should be rude. The flip side of this is that there are people that are just awfully rude to people and say things in the meanest way possible and say, well, I'm just being real. I'm just telling the truth and people can't handle it. And I don't like that either, right? You can find a gracious way to express yourself without tearing somebody to shreds. But then we're thinking about extremes here, right? And then the other end of that is being, valuing niceness so much that you don't want to hear anything that is not positive, right? And so, when things like this happen, it means that a veneer of looking a certain way is valued over authenticity. And so, an example, when niceness like this is extolled so much, it robs people of the ability to be truthful with one another, right? Giving somebody feedback, hey, I didn't like this. You could have done this a different way. This behavior that you're engaging in is really concerning and it needs to stop. In an environment where people value niceness above everything else, you cannot have these conversations. And many people have been blindsided by situations where they've been either asked to leave or some kind of negative consequence happens that they didn't see coming. And oftentimes it's because niceness is prioritized so much. And so when niceness replaces authenticity and truthful communication and the messy, back and forth and not picture perfect way of like getting from point A to point B, what ends up happening is that people sort of get fed up and then the person is just let go, or maybe they're working in a particular position, or maybe they're given a lot of information or difficult feedback out of nowhere. And the reason it comes out of nowhere is because many opportunities to be authentic in communication were were just substituted for niceness. And so I want you to think about this as you are navigating your spiritual abuse recovery journey and you meet people and you go into different environments. Don't be blindsided by niceness, right? Niceness really doesn't mean very much at the end of the day. Niceness can be a code word for a lot of things. And so, if you notice, wow, everybody is nice. Well, ask yourself, what is nice about them? Are they polite? Do you feel like they are truthful in their communication? What is it? Because after some time, you will find that veneer of niceness is starts to fade, right? And you really start to see what is truly underneath. And you don't want to be in a position where you don't feel heard or where you don't feel like other people are willing to hear you for what you have to say. So I want you to think about that. And I also want you to think, what are some other red flags for you? Or you can also put in the comment section, what do you think niceness is a cover for? When people insist on niceness, it is a way of controlling what people share. Anything can be shut down because it's, quote, not nice. And sometimes life is not nice and people aren't nice. And we should be asking ourselves more important questions like, is the truth being communicated? Are people's needs equally being heard and respected and valued. So there are a lot of other things that we need to look for besides just people are being nice. And I also want you to have a check in your, in your spirit and look out for places that value niceness above everything else. All right. So I hope that information helps. If you'd like to book a free consultation, you can go to my website, skillsetcounseling.com, click on the orange button, and you'll also find my information in the description box. All right. I hope you have a wonderful day that is filled with peace. Bye-bye.